But, we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about this explosion that happened yesterday over on the west side. An offensive explosion, if I might add, Chicago Blackhawks, with an 8-7 victory over the Ottawa Senators. So we want to reach out to a guy we hadn't heard and trying to get him back on, but, life gets in the way, and we're glad to have him back on. He's a feature writer for the at The-Rink official. You can find him on Twitter at Puckin Hostel. It's one of our favorite Twitter handles of all time. Puckin Hostel. I love it. Welcome back, Jeff Osborn. Jeff, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Good morning, guys. Thanks for having me back.
So what the heck happened yesterday, dude? 8-7, what was it, 9 goals in the first period. What the heck? Did they even play with goalies? Or was it just 6 attackers for the whole first period?
It was definitely defense optional last night. None of the
both the Swiss cheese defense, one or the other.
Yeah, both starting goalies were pulled early or in the first period. The backup goalies or the replacement goalies, I should say, didn't do much better. It was just a shootout. But when you really break it down, you got to look at these are two of the worst defensive teams in the NHL. Basically, it's the worst and the second worst defensive teams in the NHL. So you can't really be surprised at the outcome because these teams give up a lot of shots and these teams give up a lot of goals. So this is kind of what we should have expected. Maybe not 15 goals, but definitely, a 5-4 game or something like that.
It was and a couple of soft shots too. I think Cam Ward gave up a really soft goal the other day. I know Patrick Kane got that wrister late, and some of those goals were really, really soft. I think the goalies just weren't on their game. And maybe was that just part of the whole motor, the whole aura of the game? Because those goalies there were quite a few shots that I think should have been stopped by the goalies, and just flat out weren't.
Yeah, Colin Delia started for the Blackhawks, and he didn't have really the greatest of games. But the defense didn't help him out really. But the problem with that is you let one in that's maybe a little bit on the on the borderline or whatever, and it just starts rolling downhill, and it becomes this huge avalanche, and then things just. So that's why Colleton eventually pulled him and put Cam Ward in, but Cam Ward didn't fare any better. So it was basically like all the goalies were looking at the puck like it was a super ball or a golf ball rather than a beach ball, and it just. Give the Blackhawks credit because they took advantage of and scored goals when they needed to, which has been a problem, at different times in their history, or at least recent history. So they were able to capitalize on it and score goals when they needed to. But when you're giving up 7 goals, you have to look at the big picture here. It's all good and well that they score, that you got to celebrate 8 times, but you also gave up 7 goals in, a lot of shots again.
The one thing that I'm happy about is the fact that they can score goals, the fact that they are scoring goals. They're led by their stars, which is great in this, what is it, 10 out of the last 12 or something like that they've won. Mm-hmm. They're led by their stars. Alex DeBrincat, he's slowly, but I don't even say slowly, but surely, I could say he's officially a star. Patrick Kane had a goal last night. Sockfather had a goal last night. The captain didn't score. He didn't score last night. But he's been a big force in this winning streak, but the recent winnings. And I think that's a great thing. And I was telling Maya, now that they're only a point behind out of the number 8 spot, if they get into the playoffs, I'm like, I think they have a puncher's chance. I don't think they get to the Western Conference Finals and definitely not the Stanley Cup. But the fact that you're scoring goals at this rate, and not just yesterday, but up until then, I think they have a puncher's chance to getting out of the first round and maybe even out of the second. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not quite as optimistic. I wrote an article last week over on The-Rink where I basically compared the last team that was at 8th seed that won the Stanley Cup, which was the LA Kings. Back, in the early, 2012 or whatever, 2011, 2012. And I compared them, and basically these two teams are complete opposites, complete polar opposites of the spectrum. The Blackhawks can't stop anybody. They give up a lot of goals. They give up the second most shots in the NHL, while the Kings, on the other hand, were very stingy. They were one of the best defensive teams in the NHL. but they just had a hard time scoring goals. So they were having a lot of 2-1 games, a lot of 2-1, 1-0, 3-2 games, while the Blackhawks are up there with 5-4 games, 8-7 games. Unfortunately, in the playoffs, when things tighten down and you're not playing bad teams, it's not as easy to be able to give up a lot, 35 plus shots a night and then win games. The playoffs, You're playing against good teams every round. And the Blackhawks, if they were to make it in as the 8th seed or whatever, would be the worst team that could possibly be faced at that portion of the playoffs. So they're going to give up a lot of goals. They're going to give up a lot of shots. And I'm not.
Yeah, but I look at it this way. I mean, you look at I'll get to Nashville in a second, but let's get to it right now. Nashville was number 8 seed a couple of years ago when they swept the Hawks. Hawks were the number 1 seed. They had 50 wins 2 seasons ago when they were number 1 in the Western Conference. They were able to go all the way to the Western Conference final. And you talked about that LA Kings team, that number 8. Well, hockey was, believe it or not, and I think you may agree with me, hockey was so much different back then. It was a lot more physical. It wasn't the fast game that it is now. They're trying to get a more Euro, more fast, not so much physical play. And the Kings, what they did, they just knocked the hell out of you. And that's why the Hawks had such a big issue with them, because the Hawks were fast, but the LA Kings had big guys who were fast, just maybe not as fast as the Hawks, but they could definitely put a body on the Hawks better than any other team, and that's one of the reasons they were able to move that way. So I think if they get in, don't get me wrong, I think they're not, as I said, they're not going to go deep in the playoffs or even Stanley Cup, but because they give them too much shots. But they're playing that Euro game, they're playing that fast thing, and when you get your star scoring, it gives them a puncher's chance, I believe. I just think that they have that shot with. I mean, every night we're looking, dude. It's Kane, it's Taves, it's Stott, it's The-Rink. Every night those guys are scoring. One of those or two of those guys are scoring goals. The only issue is stopping those goals from the other side.
Yeah, but you also have teams that are going to game plan against the top 6, and they're really only strong in the top 6. Their first 2 lines are really good, but after that, their depth is not that good at all, and they're going to get, they're going to face those top 2 matchups, and those lines are not going to be scoring, 4 goals a night. Their power play is going to slow down and come back down to earth a little bit. And if you look at they're playing Detroit tomorrow, who's one of the worst teams in the NHL. They played Ottawa yesterday, one of the worst teams in the NHL. Their schedule is very favorable. In these last 2 months they played a really hard schedule to begin the season, but now going into the final month of the season or 2 months of the season, their schedule, they're not playing teams that are all that great. Not even playoff quality teams for the most part. So you can go out there and bum slay and you can score 8 goals a game, but when a team comes in that's actually really good playing defense, and Nashville, you mentioned Nashville. Nashville was a really good defensive team, and they had a good goalie. When they start facing teams like that are really good defensively and they can hold off Taves or Kane or The-Rink or whatever, they're going to struggle because they're going to turn around and they're going to be down 3-0, and they're not going to be able to recover because they're not playing the Ottawa Senators. They're not playing the Detroit Red Wings. They'd be playing the Winnipeg Jets or the Nashville Predators, who are really good teams and really far and above better than this Blackhawks team.
Guys, we're talking to Jeff Osborn. He is he's from the Rink official and co-host of the Rinkcast, talking about Blackhawks hockey right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning.
Jeff, this is why we needed to get you back on the show, because I was having a hard time kind of bringing Shawn back in from this. We can make it past the first round. I said, you know what? If you look at their wins, they're winning against teams that are not very good. But when you start looking at the likes of the only teams you just said are Calgary or Tampa Bay, I'm like, it's a different look for them. So yes, there's been improvement because they're winning, but I think you pointed out exactly for what it is. It's a softer schedule, and they're teams that they can compete with, but they can't compete at a higher level. So I even say, if you look at a wild card round, I don't know if they make it out of that.
Yeah, I can't see them winning more than maybe 1 game in the first round of the playoffs if they were to make it. I mean, you look at the last time they made the playoffs where they were swept. I mean, they had a really good regular season record. They won a lot of 1-goal games. They won some overtime and shootout games, some shootout, so the record looks slightly inflated, and now it doesn't even look inflated. I mean, they're just not that great of a team. They just, when you can outshoot the last place team barely, I mean, yeah, sure, that's good, but you got to look at the big picture here. There's a big picture. They need to kind of stick with the plan, continue to do what they've been doing as far as acquisitions and stuff, and just roll forward and try to get, better for the long term. This short term stuff isn't going to benefit them any because they really are not deep enough. Their roster's not deep enough. Their organization's not deep enough to be able to make a deep playoff run right now.
Let's talk a bit about the goalie situation in Corey Crawford, because obviously there's that pending question of when he's coming back, if he comes back. And one of the things we were talking about earlier in the show is, let's just say they manage to punch a ticket to the playoffs, the consideration for carrying 3 goalies, which we know is not the norm. But given the situation, kind of what's your thoughts on, obviously, a Crawford coming back? Is that something they should even consider if they can be playoff bound?
Yeah, I mean, if Crawford comes back, I mean, that's his choice and that's the team's choice. And I don't think it's not the end of the world, but he wasn't playing all that well when he went out injured either. I mean, if you look at his stats, people seem to forget these things a lot. He wasn't playing all that well. Colin Delia's been the best consistent goalie that they have, and he's a rookie. He's the only guy they could probably send back to Rockford, so that's probably what's going to, if they activate Corey Crawford, they're probably going to send Delia back to Rockford unless they are miraculously able to move Cam Ward. It's going to be, the Cam Ward and Corey Crawford show, 34 year old goalies going into the playoffs facing 35 shots a night. And, Corey Crawford is not the same player he was 2 years ago. He's okay. He's pretty good, but he's not dominating. And he's missed a lot of time the last couple of years. So that you have to factor that in as well. And as much as I like Colin Delia, he's not experienced in NHL playoff games. He's experienced in AHL playoff games. They're going to want to get him experience somewhere. They're not going to want him to sit on the bench, or actually, if he's the third goalie, they're not going to want him to sit, up in the press box watching the games. They're going to want him on the ice playing. So he's going to probably end up going back, unfortunately, to Rockford if they activate Crawford, and it'll be the Crawford and Ward show. And yikes.
Well, Crawford had a 902 save percentage before he got hurt. Not phenomenal, but not horrible either. I just think that if he comes back, I think it gives them a bit of a lift. Again, I don't get me wrong. I still think that the defense is an area that needs big time overhaul, big time improvement. Because if they can focus on that and start getting them back in the 28 to 35 shot range, I think instead it's so much easier. Then I think the Hawks legitimately have a chance to go deep in the playoff. But if you keep getting these goalies peppered with 35, 40 plus shots a game, I just don't think it is possible. If they can do that, then believe you me, I think they have a puncher's chance, especially with, these guys. I know you can game plan for certain people, but the one thing about that is you get a game plan for Kane, for Saad, for The-Rink, for Taves. That's 4 guys you have to game plan for. If you get to, that's 2 separate lines, and what if Carlton decides to mix it up and spread them all over 3 lines or 4 lines? You know what I mean? There's every adjustment that's made, a counter adjustment can be made as well. So you have a lot of hot, and that's the one thing, you have a lot of hot guys. And I forgot Dylan Strome as well has been playing very well too. Now he's back with The-Rink. So you got 4 or 5, maybe 6 guys who are lighting the lamp and finding the back of the net on a consistent basis. That's why I think they have a shot. I just think they have a shot because of all that firepower that we've been waiting for so long to see. It's finally coming to fruition. Just the bad part is that they're giving up a lot of goals too.
Yeah, right. Well, that's certainly good that they're scoring a lot of goals. That's something that needs to be done, but they're kind of a one-dimensional team is really what it is. And Corey Crawford coming back, he might be, that leadership, that everybody loves him, and he's a, like the unofficial, or not the unofficial, but like a captain of the team and a locker room presence, and that's all great. That's all good and well. but that's not going to be enough to completely change this defense, to turn them into a defense that can hold teams to under 30 shots a game. Their defense they don't have the personnel to be able to do that. They can go out there and they can score a lot of goals and they can hope for the best and hopes and prayers, but when it comes back in their end and they get pinned in their own end, they're in trouble. And they don't have a lot of people back there to help those goalies out. And unless those, and you brought up Corey Crawford's, save percentage, 902, that's well below league average. That's like 909 or 910 is league average. 902 goalies usually end up getting, sent down to the minors or, not played. So his, people have some recency bias with things, and then also sometimes people forget how things really were, a couple months ago when he went out. They were not playing well. He wasn't playing. He wasn't standing on his head, and I don't expect him to be able to come back after missing 2 months or 2.5 months and stand on his head either and be able to face 36 shots every night.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I don't know if let me say that.
I know you're right.
I don't know if that's. I think Cam Ward his level of play has increased. I don't think it's where Delia's is. Don't get me wrong. But Cam Ward has made a vast improvement to me in the last few games. It seems like he's literally just raised the level of play. I think once Colin Delia really took off, it might have made a little fire under Cam Ward a little bit. And we'll see. You and I both know that sometimes it's not the best team that wins it. It's the team with the hottest goalie. The team that's streaking. If the Hawks can get in the playoffs, and let's keep it real. They don't have to be the number 8 seed. We're talking them getting the number 8 seed. They keep winning. They might jump up to number 7, maybe even number 6. If you keep winning at this kind of rate, I understand there's other teams that have to. We have to see what they do. But you Hawks keep winning. They might not be the 8th seed getting into the playoffs, which means they don't have to face the number 1 team or the number 2 seed team. They might be fortunate enough to face the number 3 team. So we'll see how that goes, because they're scoring at a crazy rate right now, dude. And it's fun to see. And I'm starting to get sick of Chelsea Dagger again, like I hadn't heard in a while the last couple of seasons. And I was sick of it before, and then I missed it. But now I'm starting to get sick of it, which is a good thing, which means that they're finally scoring a lot of goals. So we'll see how this continues. If they continue to streak, if they continue to this hot play, then you definitely can't take them lightly. I know they have a lot of weaknesses, but what they don't have is they don't have a problem of fighting the back of the net. And as I said, a puncher's chance. You act crazy, and you try and stop all 4 or 5 of those guys who are lighting the lamp. It's going to be a tough call for a lot of teams.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see. We're going to find out. I mean, if they make it in, they're going to make it in. I mean, you can't stop them from winning. If they're going to win, they're going to win, and that's just the way it shakes out. But I think in the back or the front office, they need to stick to the plan and continue to build on players like Dylan Strome and even Drake Caggiula when they brought in, and Slater Cuckoo, and some of these players that they brought in that weren't doing so well in their previous organizations. They brought them in, and they seem to fit really well here in Chicago. I think they need to continue to do stuff like that. Don't make any big, acquisitions at the trade deadline, because it's going to be a waste. They're probably going to be rentals, and it's not, you're going to give up assets that you can't afford to give up. Look at the big picture, build for next year. Whatever happens this year is what's going to happen this year. And, go into this summer, with some cap room, make some smart decisions. And by smart decisions, I mean, don't go out and spend $11 million on Artemi Panarin, because clearly they can score enough goals. They don't need a guy that can score goals. They need guys that can help keep the puck out of the net in their own end. That's where you need to spend your money. Spend your money wisely this summer. Figure out your goalie situation, and then they can be successful, and they can build an organization that could possibly be back in the running to be, that dynasty once again.
Guys, we're talking to Jeff Osborn. He is the Blackhawks writer, chief cook, and bottle washer at The-Rink Official, and the co-host of The-Rink Cast. Talking about Blackhawks hockey with us right here on Shawn and Maya in the morning. You talked about that. I'm glad you brought up the trade deadline. Why would give me your thoughts on them maybe trading away a couple of assets, some rentals, to clear some cap space for some good defensemen, not just, into for the playoff run this year, but definitely long term for, next season and beyond. I know you said you didn't want Artemi Panarin because we're okay scoring goals, but one on Artemi Panarin, you can never have too many goal scorers. But if you don't want to go that route, wouldn't it be okay to try and get some good defensemen, even if it's some rentals, and try and sign them long term in the off season? Say, hey, look, we got cap space. We trade away X, Y, and Z. We want you to be part of this, as we go forward.
Yeah, I mean, defense is where they need to build right now. They need to get defensemen that have experience, and they have some that are young and in the pipeline, but they're young and in the pipeline, just like I said.
And inexperienced. Yeah.
Yes, very inexperienced. They're going to be coming out of college. They're going to be coming out of junior. I mean, not a lot of people, you could bring up Alex DeBrincat all you want. Not a lot of people do what Alex DeBrincat did, which is step in from the junior and the junior leagues and come into the NHL and then excel, especially on defense. That's really hard for a player to do. On top of that, smallish defensemen who are going to take beatings from, bigger adult, and they're not playing against kids anymore. They're playing against adult forwards that are gonna beat them up real good. Henry Jokiharju. Yeah, Henry Jokiharju, you saw that. You saw that this earlier this year. Henry Jokiharju, after a while, the shine kind of wore off of him, and then he was getting beat up in his own end, and he was having problems, and that's why they had to send him down to Rockford to try to get his confidence back. So it's going to be the same with these other defensemen. Boquist is going to be really good, maybe in 2 years. Ian Mitchell, maybe. Beaudin, maybe. They're not going to hit on all of them. Not all three of them are going to end up to being NHL players with the Blackhawks someday. It just can't happen. You can't have three of the same kind of players. So go out there, get, if you're going to spend big money, spend it at a position that you're in need of. If you bring Artemi, the problem here is, and people don't want to listen about the Artemi Panarin thing. The thing with Artemi Panarin is Alex DeBrincat and Brandon Saad are your first two, left wings. Where does Artemi Panarin fit in there? Are you going to put DeBrincat on the third line? He's a 30-goal scorer. You don't put a 30-goal scorer on the third line. Brandon Saad he's an experienced power forward. You put him on the third line, okay, maybe you got a $6 million guy in the third line who, is having a pretty good year. Where does Artemi Panarin fit in this? And you're going to spend $11 million of your cap space on him? It just doesn't make any sense. Use your money wisely, fill the holes you have, add some depth players, build on defense. Maybe if you need to get rid of, someone at the deadline, like it may not happen now, but Duncan Keith or someone like that. Sure, John Hayden may go. You may see, you may be surprised. Artem Anisimov, there isn't a huge market for him, but he may go. They may be able to sucker someone in. I mean, they suckered someone into taking Brandon Manning. So they may be able to sucker someone into taking Artem Anisimov and getting something back for him. I wouldn't expect you to get anything of any substance back, maybe some draft picks, maybe a guy on an expiring contract or something like that. But if you clear up that room, then you head into free agency this summer looking pretty good.
Guys, that's Jeff Osborn. Great stuff today, man. Great stuff. Do me a favor. Let everyone know where they can find you and your work online. Yeah,
you can find me, of course, at Puck and Hostel on Twitter. You can find us at The-Rink Official on all the social medias. We will be doing a Rinkcast this week with Tyler Cameron, who is a.k.a. Justin Lowe from Hockey Buzz. We're going to be talking all kinds of rumors with trade deadline stuff coming up. That'll be Thursday night, so we'll have that coming out. And, head over to the-rink.com.
Awesome, man. Great stuff, man. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All righty.